Alright, so this video is called How to Have a Good Trip on Deliriants. Um, Basically, it's just kind of going to be like a guide because a lot of people take deliriants basically just wanting to get fucked up, and it's that really never ends well for uh, any drug that people underestimate, and deliriants are a classic case of that. So I'll be going over how to help with the hallucinations, both audio and visual, the physical effects, cognitive effects, and also safe usage. So, first off, with the hallucinations. So, everyone knows that deliriants make, like, they cause fucked up visuals, obviously. But in my experience, they also cause some pretty cool ones. Um, for example, like the warping of these drugs, I find to be more satisfying than the warping of acid or shrooms. Um, and like, I do like visual grain for some reason, so that's also enjoyable for me. Um, there are some really prominent, like, gasoline spill looking visuals, like when you put gasoline into water and it has that kind of like rainbowy look to it. That is a very common visual on deliriants I've found. Um, so those are the ones that those are like the positive hallucinations. Um, but eventually, obviously, you will end up seeing bugs and shadow people or whatever. So basically, the only way to really help that is just try to stay positive. Focus on the good hallucinations. Reminding yourself constantly that you are on the substance is a great way to like help calm yourself down because you can realize, oh yeah, this is gonna end and whatever. Um, so yeah, something else is the audio hallucinations. No one ever says this, but what is really important on deliriants is music, because if you're on it, obviously you'll hear like, people fucking screaming your name and whispering it. That shit freaks you out, obviously. So the way to stop that is just to listen to music, like literally, like the whole trip, because not only does it mask the sound of people, like the scary audio hallucinations, they actually go into the music and you can hear like new melodies or lyrics, even entire new like additions to the song structure I've found. So that is a really interesting aspect, and it's one way to avoid the negative audio effects of tripping on deliriants. So another thing is try to experiment with lighting, because in some people prefer the lights to be on, so there's less shadows or whatever. Um, but if you do have the lights off, you won't see the spiders as much. I don't know. It's really it depends on the person. So just whichever works for you, but try to experiment with both, because one will be better than the other, guaranteed. So that's the hallucinations. So next are the physical effects. And even though I love deliriants, I can admit the physical effects are so shit. Like the restless legs, the nausea, the dry mouth, the body load, all that, it just messes with the experience. So basically, what you want to do is drink like you're a hardcore alcoholic. Like drink so much water that you're pissing every 2 minutes, the day of, and then during, and then after, because it'll get rid of that terrible dry mouth. Um, and also, uh, yeah, wait. Um, Another thing is like, instead of drinking water, try to drink like juice or milk or something, because like stuff that has a taste, I find, kind of like lingers in your mouth longer, so you don't have to like drink water every 2 seconds to get rid of the dry mouth. You can like it lasts. I don't know. It's better to drink something that has a flavor because it helps coat your mouth, kind of. Um, so the leg twitching, I I haven't even found a way to combat this, I'll be perfectly honest. Like maybe a couple muscle relaxants or smoking a bit of like weed would help suppress that, but you don't really want to take more drugs maybe. I don't know, it really depends. You might just have to deal with it, which is kind of sucks, but the um, something that kind of helps is doing like some small physical movement, like tapping your foot or your hand on something. It kind of helps focus your body to put the energy into moving something on purpose rather than sitting completely still and then having a twitch every 2 seconds. I don't know, it kind of helps for me. For nausea, don't take anti-nausea medication because the most common anti-nausea medication is Dramamine, which is also a deliriant. So you don't want to take more deliriants if you're already on deliriants. So rather than do that, drink some like ginger tea or just eat ginger straight up, try some herbal alternatives instead. For the body load, I also don't really know how to combat this, but for me, it was never really that bad. Maybe just like don't walk around constantly. I don't know. I really don't know. Try to look at it as if you're on some really strong sedative. Next is the mental effects. Obviously, what's commonly associated with these drugs is the anxiety, paranoia, and the impending doom or whatever, which is caused by the hallucinations and the physical effects. So, if the other things I said help, and then the mental effects of anxiety will be greatly reduced because you won't be reacting to these hallucinations and physical effects the same way. But obviously it's still going to be there because that's just like a property of the drug. So you should always have some kind of like herbal remedy or calming tea. That can be weed, that can be chamomile, that can be literally anything. But like I said before, just try to abstain from any other drugs, especially like benzos or, you know, even alcohol. If you're on a lower dose, then alcohol, I found, does help reduce that. But you have to be on a low dose for that. Another thing that I find helps is what I call the counting technique, which is kind of fucking stupid, but basically, let's say that I take 700 milligrams, walk into my room, and there's a huge ass spider about to jump on me. What I do is I close my eyes, count to either 3, 5, or 10, or whatever number I feel like counting to, open my eyes, and it's gone. Another way to help with this is just to like think while you're counting. I know I took something. This is going to go away. It'll end. That's really important in this experience because it'll definitely help. So, 9 times out of 10, that will work. If it doesn't, then like, I don't know, just deal with it, basically. If most of these things don't work, then either don't do deliriants or just deal with it. And yeah, so another thing that kind of does help is keeping a journal because you can easily remember what you took, and you can write out your experience so you can like see in a different way or something. You can talk to yourself or a trip sitter, or even an animal is a way to help the mental stress because it provides a sense of security because you're among another thing that's listening to you, even if that's yourself or if it's like your hamster or something. It still helps. So the last thing is safe usage. Deliriants, along with drugs like salvia or DXM, are viewed as like cheap highs, legal highs, teenager highs, or whatever, but they are not to be treated that way. These drugs are extremely potent and should be treated the same way that acid and shrooms are treated, even DMT to a certain extent. Like, you don't want to, take a huge bong rip of ADX for your first time doing salvia, or eat an entire seed pod of datura. You want to start low and slowly work your way up. Like, unless you want long-lasting psychosis, HPPD, or just want to go to a psych ward, you can do that. But if you don't want to have that happen, start slow, start on a low dose. You should also always have a trip sitter. Even if the trip sitter isn't present in the room, you should have them like on a phone, through text or through video call or whatever. And make sure that when you're preparing for the trip, you basically baby proof your room. Like, no sharp objects, no poisons, no other medications or drugs. Just like, really, just like treat this as a really, really, like, you know what I mean. You don't want to underlook these drugs because they will fuck you up if you use them the wrong way or have the wrong approach to using them. So there are some things that can't really be avoided, which is like the constant need to pee. But if you get rid of most of the other negatives, then really this isn't that big of an issue. And for some reason, eating fruit helps. I don't know why, but it helps slightly. So to summarize, listen to music, have a sitter, ginger tea, use that counting stuff, start small, don't underestimate dosage. Okay, another thing is I kind of feel like deliriants can be viewed as training for future psychonaut use of other substances because it helps you be able to control basically your deepest fears, because that's basically what happens on deliriants, to be honest. Like, it's mostly negative, but sometimes positive. There's always positives to be found, and this can definitely help you in the future find positives in negative situations and deal with negative situations better. So that's the video. Yeah, easy.